University of Connecticut. It's where the 19th ranked team in America, the UConn Huskies, led by Sterling Gibbs and by Sean Miller and Daniel Hamilton, look to go 2-0 on the young college basketball season. Basketball on SNY is presented by Samuel Adams. Tonight, it's UConn hosting the Wildcats of New Hampshire. UConn men's basketball on SNY is brought to you by GMC. Visit the pros at your Connecticut GMC dealer. GMC, we are professional grade. By DeGiorgi Roofing and Siding, our family serving your family since 1933. And by Nissan, proud supporter of college athletics. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Innovation that excites. Hi, everybody. Gary Apple back alongside the former Providence head coach Tim Welsh. And boy, Connecticut awfully impressive in their season opener. They won 156 over Maine. And you wondered, Tim, with the new faces, Enoch and Adams, the freshmen, and then the transfers, Gibbs and Miller, would there be any chemistry issues? We didn't see that.
Well, Gibbs and Miller have fit in very well. And UConn did their homework in making sure they brought in two guys that would fit in well. And they were ready. They were ready to play not only in the offensive end of the floor where they shared the ball, they spaced the court, they made the extra pass, but also defensively. They were 5-as-1, and Kevin Ollie's really stressing defense. And when you have the shot blocker in the middle and pressure on the perimeter, that usually means runouts and dunks, and that's what we saw.
Well, you mentioned the shot blocker, Amita Bryma. What a game he had in the opener. He had 9 blocks to go along with the 18 points. And then Sean Miller, a double-double in his first game as a Connecticut Husky, 17 and 10 rebounds.
Well, at times when Sean Miller was at Cornell, he drifted out to the perimeter and tried to be a little bit more of a three-point shooter than an inside player, but he knows where his bread is butter here at UConn, and that's on the baseline, that's in the lane, that's being a presence around the rim, and that really helps out Daniel Hamilton and Amita Bryma, and attacking the rim is what he does best. Amita Bryma, what he does, he attacks the rim and he rejects things at the rim, and his presence was big early and often against Maine. He did an outstanding job at just altering shots and blocking shots, and then offensively has a very good knack of sliding into that open gap and finishing at the rim.
Well, New Hampshire should provide a better test than Maine did. They're coming off a 19-win season, a season ago that tied a school record, and they've got the reigning America East Rookie of the Year in Tanner Leisner. In many ways, he's a throwback player. He plays sort of old school.
Well, Bill Herring's done an interesting thing with his recruiting. He's gone into the deep in the heart of Texas to bring a lot of players up to New Hampshire, and Leisner is one of the best that we've seen in a while. He came on the scene out of nowhere a year ago, but everyone knows who he is. He's got a little X on his back now, so UConn will be geared to stop him, but it won't be easy because he can go inside, he can step outside and shoot threes. He's a throwback, he's tough. New Hampshire's a solid basketball team. UConn has to be ready tonight.
It has been 32 years since New Hampshire knocked off Connecticut. It is a battle of old Yankee Conference foes. Going to have the starting lineups and the opening tip when we come back from Gampel Pavilion in a moment. Be there for the next chapter in UConn men's basketball storied history. Flex Pack single game tickets or group tickets now available. To purchase your tickets to see the Huskies, visit UConnTickets.com. We get a look at the UConn starting lineup. It's presented by Bob's Discount Furniture. No different from game one. It's Gibbs and Purvis at the guards, Hamilton, Miller, and then the big man, Amita Bryma, in the middle. Kevin Ollie beginning his 4th season at the helm here at Connecticut. Already has a national championship under his belt. For New Hampshire, it's Jalen Smith and Ronell Jordan at the guards. They've got size in the backcourt. Kean Burns, Tanner Leisner, and then the big man, Iba Kamara, in the middle. They are coached by Bill Herring, 25 years in coaching, 11 years, Tim Welsh, at New Hampshire.
Well, Bill Herring will provide different looks tonight for Connecticut. They're not usually a man-to-man team, but a zone team, they're always man-to-man, but tonight they're going to sit in a zone, a little bit more aggressive, zone with man principles, but try to make UConn shoot from the outside, take away the paint touches.
UConn home white, Amita Bryma getting set to jump against Iba Kamara. New Hampshire in the visiting blue, and it's won by Camara and Jalen Smith. First possession for the Wildcats. This is Jordan giving it to Leisner. Another big crowd here at Gamble. Shot clock down to 10. Jordan, little fadeaway off the iron, and UConn looks to run out of the gate.
Gary, New Hampshire will be very disciplined in their half-court sets. They will move the ball from side to side using most of the shot clock.
There's Leisner, beautiful dump down inside. And Camara is fouled by Amita Brima. First on Brima, first on the Huskies.
You get an early look at the skill of Tanner Leisner. You see the big hands, Gary. This is the one-hand mitt, the little dump down low, and Camara's got good hands himself. Had 20 rebounds in their opening night win. And, you know, he's not going to get double-double every night, but he's a promising young player, another guy. And in their conference, he and Leisner are going to be a load in the America East.
Camara, the 6'9" sophomore from Senegal, shot just 42% at the line a season ago, but he knocks down both free throws to give New Hampshire the quick 2-0 lead.
There you see New Hampshire in the 2-3 zone. They're going to match up hard on the perimeter, do some switching, and a little trapping on the inside as well.
Sterling Gibbs letting it go from downtown. Don't forget, Connecticut did not shoot well from beyond the arc in their season opener, just 5 of 22. Jalen Smith off the mark. Gibbs cutting in off the wing, getting the shot to fall, and he's fouled. He'll go to the line, a conventional three-point play opportunity.
Well, that's the problem New Hampshire will have if they take quick shots, because if you take quick shots against Connecticut, it's hard to rotate back, and right off the rip, they take the quick three, and here comes UConn off to the races. Positionless basketball. Purvis takes the point, Gibbs the finish.
Well, Bill Harrion was adamant this morning in the shoot-around, get back on defense. 3 guys back all the time, or it will turn into a track meet, he said.
That was the problem. Their offense was never set. It didn't make UConn's defense work, so they did not have proper rotations to get back in their zone.
UConn, early pressure, trying to lower that shot clock. No, don't forget it's down from 35 to 30 this year. The deep three by Ronell Jordan.
Jordan and Smith are a couple of tough, hard-nosed guards on the outside for New Hampshire.
Rodney Purvis right back for Connecticut. Rodney Purvis, who had 10 in the season opener from downtown.
That's the problem when you don't play a lot of zone. Sometimes you freeze. You don't know if that's your rotation or not, and that time Purvis made him pay.
Leisner bumped out front, and there's that freedom of movement that is certainly going to be emphasized.
Well, getting your feet set, and here you see Burns just hesitating to get out and contest Rodney Purvis, and Purvis knocked it down.
This is Leisner, number 21. Burns giving it to Jalen Smith. They've got size out front. 6'4" is Smith. Shot clock at 10. And here come the Huskies racing it up the court again.
But on the other end, Gary, Sean Miller did a very good job of containing Tanner Leisner. He made that little spin move that he likes in the lane, and Leisner is a very tough guard. He's a tough guy to match up with because he's constantly moving, and New Hampshire does a nice job of spacing the court and really reversing the ball quickly.
Keon Burns, his second personal, he takes a seat, replaced by the freshman number 24, Pat McNamara. There's Rodney Purvis again. Man, that stroke is really sweet. 6 points now for Rodney Purvis. Couple of threes.
If you're going to play the zone, you've got to get out on the perimeter and shade towards their best shooter, which is Rodney Purvis.
UConn missing their first couple of shots. They've now hit their last 3. Camara rejected by Bryma. Mita Bryma now sole possession of 4th place on UConn's all-time blocks list with 223 as Hamilton cannot finish. Jalen Smith had a clear lane to the bucket. Couldn't knock it down, and a turnover by Hamilton. And Hamilton getting back on the rejection. And it's knocked away by Bryma, going to stay with New Hampshire, but fast and furious here early on.
Fast and furious, and the officials, I don't think, looked at the rule book because there's been some car crashes at the rim early and often, and not many whistles. Just a great retreat by Hamilton, but then you see Leisner follows up the play, and great run to the rim from behind. Just the athleticism. After that, Leisner fouled it up and just got buried with no call.
Daniel Hamilton scored just 7 points in the season opener, but did have 9 assists and 9 rebounds. This is Camara and Leisner. Another steal. Here comes Gibbs on the break, knifing between defenders. He draws contact, and he plays through that contact, the bucket, and the foul.
Now the experience of Sterling Gibbs showing early tonight. The toughness in transition, can play the off guard, but when he is at the point in the push position, he is going to get to the rim and cross the goal line.
Back at Campbell Pavilion, Connecticut opening an 11-5 early lead. They're on an 8-0 run as New Hampshire has missed each of their last 5 shots, and the big guy has picked up right where he left off in the season opener.
Well, the interesting point about this block, Gary, is in the main game, he was a weak side help defender protecting the rim, leaving his own man to protect the rim. And on that possession there, you saw he did a nice job of moving his feet as Camara went to the rim and slid with him, and the ability, not only the timing, but the footwork, much improved, and the ability to stay out of foul trouble.
Already 2 blocks tonight, moving into 4th place all time on the Connecticut men's block shots list behind Okafor and Thabit and Marshall, so some pretty good company there. Listen, this is a New Hampshire team that is missing 2 key cogs. Daniel Dion, the junior out of Cedar Park, Texas, and Joe Bramante, who was a member of the All-America East defensive team a year ago. He's a junior as well from Andover, Mass, both suspended for the opening 3 games. And so Bill Harrion has a short bench, and he knows he cannot afford to lose guys to fouls tonight, and that's a big issue worth watching.
Well, they've got to really be careful on offense because UConn's pressure is showing early that it's bothering them, and they're not able to get they haven't been able to get many easy looks, and they've got to try to move the ball and get Leisner kind of catching the ball. He's trying to make one-on-one moves against a set defense. They have to try to get him on the move, on the ball reversal, attacking the rim.
Sterling Gibbs now with 6 points for Connecticut. This is Smith giving it to Jordan, and the little baby hook there is Tanner Leisner, and he can score in a variety of ways.
Well, that time they got him on the move, and instead of working against the set defense, they kind of misdirected and threw it down to the mid-post area.
First bucket of the game for Leisner, and then Phil Nolan just into the game. He's called for the offensive foul, and that's one of the points of emphasis, Tim. Legal screens this year. They're going to call that very carefully.
Well, you must be set, and a good job by the officials is you must get yourself stable before you run. You can't run into a screen anymore.
The freshman, Jalen Adams, making his first appearance into the game tonight. He's number 2. Daniel Hamilton back as well, as Rodney Purvis has taken a seat on the Connecticut bench. 15 minutes to go here. First half, Campbell Pavilion. Gary Apple alongside Tim Welsh and Kareth Burke. Connecticut out to an early 5-point lead. Straightaway jumper by Jacoby Armstrong just into the game, and that comes up short. Beautiful dump down. Phil Nolan, though, rejected inside by Armstrong, but he's called for the foul. And Nolan is going to shoot 2.
Well, the first thing you think about is that you're going to shoot threes against a zone, but UConn attacking on the interior, knowing that New Hampshire is very small, and they go a little mid-post, then down to the baseline before New Hampshire can shift on the backside. And nice pass by Miller and a good cut to the rim by Nolan.
First foul on Armstrong, the 4th on the Wildcats here in this first half. Let's check in right now with Kareth Burke. She's the 3rd member of our broadcast team. How are you, Kareth?
Great, Gary. And that last time out, I was behind the New Hampshire bench. I wanted to see what Bill Harrion was telling his team. It started with a look of bewilderment, and then he's like, guys, we can't let UConn run right through us. We need to draw fouls. We need to take a charge, and we need to take care of the basketball. He told his team, stay tough right now, that these opening minutes really matter. Gary?
Thank you, Kareth. Philip Nolan knocking down the second. He missed the season opener with a sprained foot, so he's seeing his first action of the season. As Omar Calhoun, number 21, is checked into the game for the Huskies as well. Leisner from way downtown, nothing but nylon. Tanner Leisner now with 5 points.
There's a confident, good-looking player that came here tonight and put his teeth right into the middle of UConn's defense.
Leisner had 21 and 10 in the season opener for New Hampshire. One of the things Kevin Ollie spoke about this afternoon in shoot-around was trying to establish control of this game early on to let New Hampshire know that they cannot play with Connecticut, sort of beat down their will early on.
Well, the thing about New Hampshire is that they've stuck with their game plan, and they've given up a couple open looks here, but their zone defense has been very feisty. There's still a lot of pressure on the basketball, good rotations on the backside.
Mark Calhoun forcing one up off the back iron. Jalen Smith being guarded by the freshman, Jalen Adams. Armstrong dragging the pivot. That's going to be a travel going back to Connecticut.
Well, Tanner Leisner, we've seen him go down low. We've seen him on the baseline in the mid-post, but just when you think you have him corralled down low, he can do this. He can pop off a down screen, and he's got that kind of strange release from the top, but he's got the long arms, and he is a physical, good-looking player who's just, he's banging around with all of UConn's frontline guys. He is not afraid.
Well, we've gone over 2 minutes now without seeing a field goal in this game. There's Philip Nolan off the iron, too hard, and that streak continues. A little quick on that shot, Tim.
It is. It's not what Kevin Ollie wants. He needs more touches. The ball has to go into the middle of the floor first, shrink the defense, then it can come back out for jumpers.
There's an errant pass by Jalen Smith. New Hampshire shooting at just 25% so far in the game, but they trail it by only 3.
That's what UConn's pressure will do to you, and UConn very good on the ball pressure on the perimeter.
Hamilton kicking to Adams off the back iron. Offensive rebound by Phil Nolan. And there's Nolan working hard off the offensive glass, and Philip Nolan gets it to go off the window.
Yeah, just reached over the top. The size advantage up front, very evident.
Nolan's got 3 points now for the Huskies. Leisner stepping back. Long rebound coming back, and Burns now resets top of the key. Armstrong, face-up jumper. He's coming back from a concussion. Didn't play in their season opener against Linden State. Another Connecticut turnover.
Trying to go too fast, not getting organized against the zone and trying to jam it into the middle. They've got to make the defense work before they pop it into that high post area.
4th turnover of this first half for the Huskies. They had just 8 total in their opening night win against Maine. Shot clock down to 5 now. Armstrong going to work, kissing it off the window. Jacoby Armstrong just using sheer power inside.
He's an important player for UNH, coming off the bench and using physicality and also playing in the middle of that zone.
His first bucket of the game gets the Wildcats back within 3. Kenton Facey is checked in. Hamilton attacking off the window, and it's going to be waved off. An offensive foul on Daniel Hamilton. First personal foul on Daniel Hamilton. New rule this year, you cannot score a bucket on an offensive foul even if it leaves your hand. Well, UConn a dozen points in the opening 4 minutes and 6 seconds. They've scored just 3 now in the last 5-17 as they lead at 15-12. That last bucket by Daniel Hamilton, Tim Welsh, it was waved off.
Well, this is the reason you play zone, is because Daniel Hamilton is just a nightmare matchup one-on-one in man-to-man. But in the zone, you'll see the zone will shift, and he's really going 1 against 3 defenders where all the UConn, his teammates, are all on the weak side of the floor. So he gets by the defender on the perimeter, but here comes the help on the baseline, and they get in position and draw the charge.
Well, as you said at the outset, Bill Harrion is a man-to-man coach who has gone to the zone tonight, and you talked about with man-to-man principles. Explain a little bit deeper what that means.
Well, that means that they're almost in a shell-type drill where if you get beat on the perimeter, there is going to be help, and you're going to guard the man in your area one-on-one, man-to-man. It's not just sit back and wave your hands and let them shoot from the perimeter. They're going to put pressure on you, and they're doing a nice job of playing man-to-man on the ball, but really shading off on the weak side to take away all the paint area touches that UConn was so successful with in their first game.
Leisner getting hammered inside. He's going to shoot 2. Daniel Hamilton is called for the foul. That's his 2nd personal and the 5th on the Huskies.
Well, Bill Harrion is a man-to-man coach, but I can guarantee you one thing, Gary, that they didn't just put this zone in on Sunday afternoon. I mean, they look pretty good in their shifts. They're communicating, they're active, and in the man-to-man now, Leisner is starting to get a little loose and finding his niche on the baseline.
Tanner Leisner shot 72% from the free throw line a season ago, knocks down the first. Daniel Hamilton sits down with those 2 personals, sitting alongside Amita Brima. Sam Cassell Jr. has checked in, number 10. He's the oldest player on the Connecticut side at 23 years old, as Leisner brings New Hampshire back within a point as we come up on the halfway point here in this first half. So far, this New Hampshire zone has been very, very active as Adam gets into the teeth of it and tries to follow his own shot. It's going back to New Hampshire.
I think UConn has to try to attack the middle of the paint, put Sean Miller right in the middle of the lane. They've got Jacoby Armstrong playing in the 5 spot, right in the middle of that zone. But you see Miller, he drifts to the outside. He's got to get right into the middle of the paint and try to attack Armstrong. They list him at 6'7", but he doesn't look any taller than 6'5", playing in the middle of that zone.
This is the freshman, McNamara, giving it up for Leisner. Very quick first step, drawing some contact is Jalen Smith. He plays through it, gets the bucket, and New Hampshire has got the lead.
Now, this is a team that looks like they won 19 games a year ago and very confident coming into this building with an exact game plan. And UConn right now just trying to find some sort of flow on the offensive end.
UConn has just 1 field goal since the 15:54 mark here in this first half as Sam Cassell Jr. answers right on cue.
Now the depth of UConn, Kevin trying to find the right mix and match, and that's Sam Cassell's spot right in the corner.
First points of the game for Sam Cassell Jr. UConn 3 of 6 from downtown so far in this first half.
Gary, Connecticut's just passing the ball way out on the perimeter. New Hampshire doesn't even have to try to guard them out there.
There's Gibbs from way downtown. Sterling Gibbs now with 9 points to lead the Huskies.
Well, you better guard that, even though he was way out by the NBA line. Gibbs very confident from the top.
Sterling Gibbs going over the 1,000-point mark in his college career, now has 1,001 points. He's got 9 again so far tonight. McNamara too hard off the back iron. Gibbs breaking down the defense, but out of control, and there is an offensive foul on Sterling Gibbs. That's his first foul.
Well, Connecticut has not had much luck against the zone or in transition, but going inside, shrink the defense and kick it back out. That's the way you beat the 2-3.
Stay on top of all things UConn. Up to the minute Huskies news, game recaps, press conferences, and exclusive interviews on SNYUConn.com, presented by Mercedes-Benz, part of the SNY.TV blog network. Let's head back to Kareth Burke. Her report brought to you by Sam Adams.
Hi, Gary. I had a chance to talk to Daniel Hamilton about his summer and how he kept his game sharp. He said back home in California, he was able to practice a little with a couple NBA players, Trevor Ariza, Reggie Jackson, and then the former Husky, Marcus Williams. The guy said they said they would all meet up at a gym in Santa Monica and just take on each other. He said the biggest takeaways that he learned from those NBA guys, those senior guys, was don't rush the game. Don't let your defender speed you up. And he also got a few tips for how to stay sharp on the pick and roll situation. Hamilton says he feels like a more patient player this season. You can also see he's about 20 pounds heavier in muscle through the shoulders and in the legs. The coaches really like where he's at physically, and they like where his head's at to start this season, Gary.
All right, Kareth, under 8 minutes to go here in this first half. And there's Tanner Reisner. And at the outset, we talked about the variety of ways in which he can score, and we've seen it right on cue.
Well, they've got to deny him the ball, because he just took it to Sean Miller one-on-one. He squared up and said, I'm taking you to the hole, and he just rose up and put it down with that little unconventional old-school jump hook.
He's got 9 points. He leads the Wildcats. There's Rodney Purvis with the shot clock winding down from way downtown, and Rodney Purvis now with 9 points, and he is perfect in the game. 3 of 3 from beyond the arc.
That's been their best offense. Go inside, reverse the ball, and UNH not rotating properly at the top.
Ronell Jordan fouled on his way to the bucket. He's going to shoot 2.
Well, the best way to shrink the defense, again, bring the guards in by throwing it into the high post. As they turn in, pitch it back out.
Sean Miller called for the personal. That's his second, and so he's going to take a seat as Amita Brima gets set to check back in. He's got a couple of fouls himself.
Well, what UNH isn't doing properly in their zone, Gary, is when the ball goes into the high post, all the guards are turning in, and it's very difficult to guard the high post from the top of the key. So they need to match up with the guards and let one of the big guys come up and play that high post area. Instead, they're double teaming and triple teaming the elbow area, which is allowing UConn to pitch it back out for those open shots at the top.
Ronell Jordan missing both free throws. He was just a 63% free throw shooter a season ago, and so the lead remains at 6 for Connecticut. Kenton Facey, the 15-footer from the elbow. Look at Brima. Boy, that's got to make Kevin Ollie very happy, the offensive rebound.
Well, I think he's an improved rebounder just from watching him in the first few games and watching him in practice. He's done a better job. He's stronger. He's fighting for position. He has a better reach out of his area. Now he's understanding how he can use his body, and he's certainly going to be helped by the presence of Sean Miller next to him as well.
You know, I asked Kevin about making a good rebounder. He said a lot of it is just desire, number one, but number two, when it comes to Brima, he said he tries to block everything, and so at times he finds himself out of position and not in a position to grab a rebound.
That's a very good point, and I think his numbers will be better, but they're going to have to be great because of the fact they have Miller, and there's Gibbs looking great from downtown.
Sterling Gibbs knocks down another 3. He's in double figures. He's got a dozen now. He's 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. Leisner, another little floater, this one coming up short. Gibbs pitching to Purvis, and that's too hard. Smith missing once, going to take another crack at it, and this one nothing but nylon. Jalen Smith now has 5 for Bill Harrian's team.
UConn, though, has seemed to solve some of the issues on the offensive end. They've been more patient. They're going inside. They're reversing the ball. They're not rushing their offense.
Purvis, an open look. Goes off Facey, and it's back to New Hampshire. Connecticut now 6 of 11 from beyond the arc in the first half, and that's another thing I asked Kevin about, the 5 of 22 in the season opener. He said he's not worried about it. As long as they get good looks, he thinks guys will knock them down.
And the shots against the zone, they've been very patient the last 7 or 8 minutes, really probing the zone, which has led to the open looks from the perimeter.
Under 5.5 minutes now to go in this first half at Gamble. Connecticut leads it by 6. New Hampshire has played UConn very tough, and Brima is going to get called for his 3rd personal foul as he reached in front.
Well, this is an inexperienced foul by an experienced player. He has to understand he's guarding a guy who cannot score from that area, and he's just got to keep his position and especially know how many fouls he has, and now he's out for the half.
So with 3 personals, Brima takes a seat. That is the 9th personal on Connecticut. Sends Iba Kamara, the sophomore from Senegal, to the line. He's going to shoot 1 and 1. Kamara coming off a big-time game against Linden State, Division III Linden State in the season opener. He had 15, and as you mentioned to me, those 20 rebounds. Well, Connecticut has won 18 of their last 20 against New Hampshire, and well, there's Sterling Gibbs doing it again. Sterling Gibbs showing the touch. He's got 15 and is now 3 of 4 from downtown in this first half.
Well, that's just way too easy for New Hampshire defensively, just not rotating at all. 1 pass and a wide open shot on the wing.
When it comes to efficiency, Tim, Gibbs now has 15 points in 14 minutes tonight. He's got 35 points in 41 minutes so far this season.
All this is just a little pass and go away, and nobody comes up. You see on the backside, Jacoby Armstrong just stands there, and the backside forward has to come out and extend to that pass on the wing.
Pat McNamara knocks down the first free throw. Gibbs and Purvis have provided most of the offensive punch for this Connecticut team so far.
Rodney Purvis, you can just see the comfort level he has now in his 2nd season with Connecticut, playing on the floor, obviously after that sit-out season. But at the end of last year, really found his niche and confidence-wise and how to play at this level.
McNamara missed the second, but a lane violation on the Huskies. We saw Kevin Ollie shaking his head. That stuff drives him just crazy.
Well, little things, the little things, and they'll hear it at halftime. Not only that, but the 3rd foul on Brima, those are the things you can control as a team, and this is why they're letting New Hampshire hang around.
New Hampshire has shot just 32% in this first half, but they are very much in the game, trailing it by 6. Purvis trying to create for himself, but it's too hard off the back iron. This is Kamara being guarded by Phil Nolan. And a late whistle, but a foul on Nolan, going to send Kamara to the line to shoot 2. That's the 2nd on Nolan.
Well, that's a good call because Phil Nolan got into the cylinder of verticality. You'll see as he backs up, he reaches in and the hand comes across the arm, and that's a foul.
So explain a little bit deeper this cylinder of verticality. If the hands are straight up, it's a different call?
Absolutely. He has the right to that position as a defender, but when he goes into the cylinder of the offensive player, which he has that right. Now, if the offensive player jumps into him with his hands straight up in the air, then that's no call or maybe an offensive foul, but Nolan reached in, good call.
Jalen Adams checking into the game as Rodney Purvis takes a seat as Iba Kamara knocks down the 2nd of the 2 free throws. So we know about the new rules, and there are many of them. Is that new, or is that just being stressed, what you spoke about a moment ago?
There's an emphasis of that, but that's always been the rule, that verticality rule. But they're really paying attention to any contact that impedes the offensive player.
Nolan, mid-range jumper. Philip Nolan now with 5 points in his first action of the season. Under 4 minutes now to go in this first half, and there's Smith getting to the baseline a little too hard. Offensive rebound. Armstrong, the floater. And Jacoby Armstrong now with 4 points, getting Connecticut and their lead cut back to 5.
He's an important guy for Bill Harrion. Missed a lot of last year with injury. Was injured in the first game, and he's a tough guy.
Nolan cannot knock down the same baseline jump shot, but where would Connecticut be without Sterling Gibbs in this first half?
Well, Sterling Gibbs is the point guard. He's supposed to run the show, but when you need buckets, he can go get them. He proved that in the Big East, and now he's proven it at Connecticut.
Washington beat Virginia. North Florida over Illinois. The list goes on and on. Wisconsin lost to Western Illinois, and so there are no sure things here early in the season.
There's no question about it. I think when you look at all the transfers in college basketball, and there's guys that you don't even remember that are transferred from one school to the other, and early season you're going to see some surprise teams, and that's why I think this Connecticut team is built to last for the long haul, because they've steadied themselves as far as veterans. They've added some nice pieces as freshmen, and then the 2 fifth-year guys. I mean, it was Sean Miller in their opener, and tonight it's been Sterling Gibbs.
3 minutes, 20 seconds to go in this first half as Leisner lets it go from 3. It was on target, but came up short. Gibbs, Adams, Calhoun, Facey, and Nolan on the floor for Connecticut. There's Jalen Adams. Great body control to avoid the foul.
New Hampshire did a nice job rotating over, but as you said, Gary, tremendous poise in the lane.
First bucket of the game for the freshman, and there's Jordan launching up a 3, and Armstrong chasing down the offensive rebound.
New Hampshire has to settle themselves down. They've taken some quick threes in the last few possessions. They need to get Leisner involved on the baseline.
New Hampshire just 3 of 11 from beyond the arc in the first half. Connecticut has shot it well from downtown, 7 of a dozen. Sterling Gibbs thought about it, not there. Facey in the land of the Giants, the little baby hook off the window. Kenton Facey, his first bucket of the game.
A good power move. New Hampshire did not give any help on the backside. They should have slid over and made Facey a passer.
Tough shot right there. Ronell Jordan gets it to go in the lane. He's got 5 points now for Bill Harrion's team as they trail it 36-29 with $1:40 to go in the first half.
Quick shot by Calhoun. They need to keep working that ball around the perimeter. When they've worked the ball, they've found the leaks in New Hampshire's zone.
Armstrong, 15-footer from along the baseline, won't go down. Well, UConn is trying to push the tempo whenever they can, and there's Calhoun, another 3 that will not fall.
Timeout, Wildcats.
Let's get a look at tonight's drive of the game. It's presented by Chevrolet, and there's the freshman, Jalen Adams.
Jalen Adams, world of promise. He just needs to get under control, and that drive in the middle of the lane was under control.
Soft in the lane, and we saw the screen that Philip Nolan set. And what about setting screens against a zone and the way it changes as compared to a man-to-man?
Well, that's the offense that Connecticut would like to run against the zone, where they space the court, they get in kind of a 1-3-1 action, they hit the wing, and they interchange the guards out front just to get a little bit of movement. And then as they reverse the ball, one of the bigs will come up and screen the top of the zone to try to create a 5-on-4 opportunity on the weak side. And That's what Omar Calhoun's taking those quick threes without any ball reversal or 3 or 4 passes. That really doesn't make New Hampshire's zone work, and that's why he's on the bench.
Final minute of this first half here at Campbell Pavilion, and New Hampshire hanging around. They trail it by 7, despite the fact they're shooting just 31% in this first half. Well, that's Burns, little up fake, and can't get it to go.
Well, Burns should have made the extra pass. Leisner was wide open on the wing.
About a dozen-second of a differential between the game clock and the shot clock. There's Gibbs, no hesitation, and Sterling Gibbs continuing this red-hot first half. He's got 18 and is 4 of 5 from beyond the three-point arc.
Well, the interesting thing is all they're doing is simple reversing the ball, and Sterling Gibbs is just standing out on the wing, and UNH has to understand they have to extend their zone 2 or 3 feet higher when Gibbs is in the area.
Camara rejected by Facey in a run out. Sterling Gibbs can't get it to go, but he is hammered by Jalen Smith, and the question is, will it be intentional?
New Hampshire foul. Number 0, Jalen Smith.
Well, they're going to look,
First personal.
in fact,
Foul number 6.
if there was a play on the ball. And here again, New Hampshire, not a good shot, driving to the rim just wildly, Kamara. And this is a recipe for disaster against Connecticut because their eyes light up and then they're off to the races. And Purvis did a nice job of getting behind the defense.
The officials at the table taking a look. By the way, New Hampshire, 51 opening half points in their season opener against Linden State. Tonight, very different story. Held to 29 so far in this first half as we watch it again, Tim, and the rejection on the weak side by Facey and the run out.
Well, I think they're also looking not only if there was a flagrant foul, but if the foul occurred before the end of the half.
Jalen Smith reaching up and grabbing Rodney Purvis as the officials take a look at it.
I'm not sure he had the foul, and it looked like Purvis is in one of those situations where he was trying to rush his shot because of the fact he did know the clock was running out, so he might have taken off a little bit further out than he normally would have for a layup in transition where he had a breakaway. But
well, Bill Harriet took his team to the locker room. They had left the court, and now they are making their way back onto the court as the officials continue to look at this to see what the final conclusion is going to be. So let's take a look here if the foul was committed, number 1, before the light went off. Well, certainly the ball was not out of Rodney Purvis's hands before the light went off.
Exactly. I think they're going to put Purvis on the free throw line with about 0.2 or 0.1.
Now, looking at it again, Tim, I don't think there was anything flagrant about that. He made a play on the ball.
He made a play on the ball, absolutely. I think the only question is the clock situation.
Well, that sequence right there was about as bad a sequence as Bill Harriet could want for his team. They had a shot to take the final shot of the first half. They took it with 4 or 5 seconds to go. They did not score, and then Connecticut has a chance here to open the lead a little bit bigger than 10.
Well, not only did they go too soon, but they took a poor shot as well. And, you know, Kamara trying to drive the ball from the high post all the way to the rim. He is not going to be successful against Connecticut with that at all.
So right there, the ball is in Rodney Purvis's hands before the light goes off, and then the light goes off before he gets it out of his hands.
Well, he's in the act of shooting. It's really a matter of when they determine the foul was committed.
The officials, Rick Crawford, Ron Groover, and Clarence Armstrong, are continuing to meet. Kind of tough to tell in real time.
It's tough to tell in real time, and it's tough to tell. These guys have not made a decision. They're going to huddle on this, and it's very difficult because it's. I think that he was fouled right before the horn, but it was bang bang at the buzzer.
How unusual is it to see a team leave the floor like that and then come back onto the floor?
Well, it just disrupts everything about the flow of the game. And, you know, the one thing, obviously, that you want is they're going to get it right, but you also want it to be a little bit in a timely fashion.
You mean sitting here for 3, 4, 5 minutes is not what you would ideally want to see?
Well, this is why we have the monitor. I mean, they have to make a decision. They have to make a look. You know, the view is not going to change.
Well, just from the reaction of what we're seeing right there, Kevin Ollie is not going to be happy. I think it's been determined that the half was over before the foul was committed because New Hampshire and Connecticut, they're both now leaving the floor. And indeed, that's what it was. The foul was determined to be after the final buzzer had gone off.
Well, UNH very fortunate because they didn't use the clock properly on the offensive end. They played a feisty half, but give Connecticut a lot of credit. They really probed that 2-3 zone and did a nice job in the first half.
But get a look at it one more time. Rodney Purvis trying to beat the clock. He is definitely hammered, but the determination of the officials is that the foul happened after the clock hit 0 and the red light came on. So Connecticut has the lead at the half, 39-29. Sterling Gibbs, the story of this first half, he's got 4 3-pointers. New Hampshire as a team has just 3 total. When we come back, other side of a break, Michelle Yu, Vin Parisi, Tariq Turner with our halftime show from our studios in New York.
Well, Coach, we saw Purvis and Gibbs really get the offense going. What can UConn do to get the bigs more involved?
Well, you got to get the ball behind the zone a little bit. We really shot the three-point shot, but we definitely need more penetration against the zone, and the bigs are going to have to be involved a little bit in that penetration. Throw the ball behind the zone, throw the ball into the high middle, and attack from there. We need more guard penetration, too.
All right, and with a 10-point lead at halftime, what can UConn do to really take the Wildcats out of this game? Defend
without fouling. We got to get back to rebounding and fast breaking, and we've got to get some penetration against the zone. Just be patient. You know, they're a good team. They're an execution team, and just be patient. We have a 10-point lead. Just try to build on that slowly.
Thank you, Glenn. Gary, back to you.
Gareth, we thank you. Glenn as well. First half stats presented by Connecticut Lighting Centers. UConn up by 10 at the break. They shot 8 of 15 from beyond the arc. Gary Apple back alongside Tim Welsh. Very different story than the opening game against Maine when Connecticut shot it at just 5 of 22 from downtown. And Sterling Gibbs a big part of the three-point barrage in the first half.
UConn would be in trouble if you go through a first half where their entire front line is shut out, but it was made up from the outside, and they did a nice job of probing the defense, and it was Rodney Purvis early and then Sterling Gibbs late, but they spaced the court, they reversed the ball. New Hampshire did not do a good job getting out on shooters, and when UConn went inside, then outside, that's when they had their easy open looks. And Sterling Gibbs, that's why he came here, to make the big shots, to take the big shots. And Daniel Hamilton and Sean Miller really didn't do anything offensively, but they didn't have to because the guards made up for it.
Here we go. Second half going to be Purvis and Hamilton. Sterling Gibbs, Amita Brima back on the court, and Sean Miller, the original starting 5 for Connecticut. Hamilton rejected by Leisner, but he stays right with it, and he gets the bucket and the foul, and that's the first basket of the game for Daniel Hamilton.
Well, that's what Glenn Miller just talked about, getting behind the zone. And here they get down to the baseline, and Hamilton staying with it, being physical, and that's where he has to do his work tonight. Against Maine, he was on the perimeter, kind of played a point forward spot, but UNH is not going to let him dribble drive from the top, so he's got to get into those gaps from the wing and baseline area.
Hamilton, the offensive rebound, and there's Sean Miller on the offensive glass. And that's the first basket of the game for Sean Miller as well.
Well, Sean Miller and Daniel Hamilton clearly were taken into the lab at halftime by Kevin Ollie because they floated a lot on the perimeter in the first half, but in the second half, they're going right to the paint.
Well, Burns hit the deck, kept his dribble. Smith and Jordan in the backcourt to start this second half. Camara in the middle. And there's a wild shot by Smith with the shot clock winding down, and there's a shot clock violation.
Well, Sean Miller got into the high post area a little bit in the first half, but a lot of the time he floated to the three-point line. But this is reminiscent of what he did against Maine, just power on the glass.
Sean Miller, a combination of great upper body strength and big-time hops, and we saw those hops in the win against Maine. That's one dunk where he came flying in down the lane, was certainly one that's going to go on the highlight reel this season. And there's that alley-oop we saw so much of in the Maine game. Hamilton putting it up for Amita Brima. And Brima in the scoring column for the first time tonight.
Well, Kevin Ollie knows that, that can be fool's gold, all those threes. They're not going to continue to attack this zone from the outside. They're going inside first.
Leisner dumping and Hamilton knocking it away. Purvis kicking to Hamilton. Now that one won't go down for Rodney Purvis. Good extra pass from the left side. Jordan rattles it in there. Ronell Jordan, big bucket. He's got 8 points and a quick timeout for Bill Harrion, whose team has fallen behind early in this second half by 13. UConn led by 10 at the half. They've opened that lead to 13. One thing they did not do in the first half was get into the teeth of that New Hampshire zone. They've done it early in the second half.
That was a special. We saw a lot last season, and Sean Miller and Hamilton kind of invert each other. And here, Hamilton right in the middle of the zone. No one comes up, and you see on the backside as the middleman just bites a little bit on Hamilton. Brima slides to the rim on the backside, and UNH is extended out on the perimeter because of the fact that Connecticut made all those threes in the first half, and so what's going to be open if they extend out the middle of the floor?
And Bill Harrion at shoot around this afternoon, he kept harping on that. If you have to be patient in the middle, because if you do make that move, that whole back line is open for dunk after dunk.
I'd rather give up that little 10-footer to Hamilton than a dunk, but that middle guy, when the ball does go in, he's got to just be careful about running up to the high post area.
Sean Miller looking to go cross court, and that is over the head of Sterling Gibbs as we check back in with Kareth Burke.
Gary, when Bill Harrion saw that UConn came out with way more energy than his team, he asked his guys, are we just going to be a 20-minute team? During that timeout, he was telling them, you got to win the 50-50 balls, and I need you to play defense.
Well, Bill's been around 25 years as Division I head coach. He's been through all the wars over the years, so he has a great feel for the game, and he understood we need a quick timeout to reorganize.
Eva Camara rejected by Amita Brima. UConn now has 21 blocks on the season compared to just 3 for their opponents, Maine and New Hampshire.
Kamara has to do a better job of understanding where the big guy is playing right behind him. He is not open. He's got to pitch that back out.
3 blocks on the night for Amita Brima. There's Leisner. Boy, he is tough, beating the shot clock and great body control. Rodney Purvis back the other way. He's fouled by Ronell Jordan. He's going to shoot 2.
Well, that was a nice play by Tanner Leisner on the other end. Not only beating the shot clock, but somehow finding a little gap in between the middle of the bigs of UConn.
Tanner Leisner led New Hampshire in scoring and rebounding a season ago as we see Purvis knock down the first.
Good ball screen and just a little crossover in between, and he gets the ball right up on the rim in between both Sean Miller and Amita Brima.
Rodney Purvis was just a 54% free throw shooter a season ago, and he makes just 1 of 2 here to extend the lead to a dozen for the Huskies. Burns, Kamara, McNamara has checked in now for New Hampshire. Smith and Leisner on the floor for Bill Harrion as the shot clock is down to 5 now. And there's Smith. And rebounded by Hamilton, and they continue to try to push tempo here early in this second half. Hamilton putting it up, and Brimo was at the rim but couldn't finish, but he stays with it. Tracks it down in the corner.
It's a play we've seen many times. Brimo just couldn't control it.
This time, Hamilton, the shovel pass, and then Brima rising up and sending it in.
Well, that wasn't there in the first half. Daniel Hamilton with his little spin moves into the middle of that zone, and New Hampshire's got to do a better job of closing the gap and recovering.
Amita Brima, 18 points in the season opener. He has just 4, and there's a run out. Sean Miller gathers and wisely pitches back. Sterling Gibbs, and what a night it's been for Sterling Gibbs. He's now 5 of 6 from downtown.
This is why UConn is so dangerous. They start getting into a rhythm, and Hamilton becoming a facilitator. Everyone else benefits.
Jalen Smith answers back for New Hampshire, and a really big bucket right there to quiet the crowd, at least for the moment. Jalen Smith, the junior from Freeport, Texas. They've got 7 Texans on this New Hampshire team. Under 15 minutes now to go here in this second half. Connecticut leading New Hampshire by 15. This is Kamara trying to work on Brima. And finally kisses in off the window. Eva Kamara with 6 points.
That was a good strong move with the left hand. Now he had a little space and he created an angle at the rim over Brima.
That's knocked away, going to stay with Connecticut, but the Huskies need to see and want to see more of this.
Well, when your best player is unselfish, everyone benefits and plays hard all the time, and Daniel Hamilton came out of the half ready to distribute.
In the morning, as we get a look now at tonight's UConn trivia question presented by Mercedes-Benz, who's the last player to score 1,000+ points in his UConn career. The answer coming up in just a little bit. So look what happened during the timeout, Tim. A little bit of theatrics.
A little Gamble magic.
That's always fun to see.
Well, sometimes there's just a rhythm in the air when Sterling Gibbs and Rodney Purvis start knocking down threes, and anybody can make one.
Everybody wanted to get involved. Philip Nolan has checked into the game now for Connecticut, as has Sam Cassell. Daniel Hamilton hammered. He's going to shoot 2. As he's hit by Ronell Jordan. That is the 4th foul now on Ronell Jordan, and the 3rd on New Hampshire here in the second half.
And that's what makes Daniel Hamilton so tough. Just a tremendous awareness of where they were in the shot clock and just making something out of nothing, drawing a foul.
Hamilton, a 67% free throw shooter. A season ago, I asked Kevin Ollie this afternoon, is he the prototypical point forward? He said he is the very definition of a point forward.
There's no question about it. In the first half, he kind of just stood around and let that zone play him, and now he is attacking the zone with a vengeance in the second half.
And he reaches in, commits the foul right there. That's his 3rd personal. And Kevin said he wants to recruit all Daniel Hamiltons. It's the very type of player that he wants to have.
I'd like like to recruit all high school All-Americans that are going to be top 10 picks. Why not? That makes you a good coach, Gary.
It really does. As Leisner, that little floater that he has perfected, cuts the lead back to 13. Don't forget, Hamilton comes from a very rich basketball family. His brother played 4 years at Miami. Also another brother, Jordan, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Clippers in the NBA, and he's got a brother now at UCLA.
Well, he never got in the rhythm in the first half because he was in foul trouble, but in the second half, he's done that. Distributed and created for himself off the bounce. On ball reversal, they've done a nice job of spacing the court. And here he just finds that angle, gets into the gap. He had the dish to Nolan, but he took it himself.
Well, Connecticut now has made 5 of their last 6 field goals as they've opened this lead. A chance to make it 16 right here by Daniel Hamilton. And it hangs on the rim, and it does crawl in. 7 points now for Daniel Hamilton as Omar Calhoun checks in, and Hamilton takes a seat on the Connecticut bench. He's got, as I mentioned, those 3 personals.
Kevin Ollie's going to give this second unit, a couple of these guys, Calhoun and Casal and Nolan, a little look and see if they can extend the lead. He's trying to pare down his rotations as they move forward and move towards the Atlantis games where they'll step up in competition. So he's got to find those 8 or 9 guys he really trusts.
Jacoby Armstrong, a 3 to cut the lead back to 13. New Hampshire resilient. They will not go quietly here tonight. Pat McNamara, number 24, is also checked into the game for New Hampshire, and Kenton Facey checking in right now, replacing Sean Miller. Shot clock is at 11 now for Connecticut. Sterling Gibbs rattles out and off the hands of Kenton Facey. Quick shot right there by Jalen Smith. Sam Cassell Jr., the bucket, off the dribble and the foul.
Well, I was about to say another quick shot by a Casal or a Calhoun, but sometimes when you're an off, you make things happen off the bounce. You can make plays, and a little bit of a bailout there by UNH.
Pat McNamara called on the foul. And there was another example, Tim, of what we spoke of in the first half, screening off the high post.
Well, they've done a better job of spacing the court, being more patient here in the second half, and making New Hampshire's zone work and shift from side to side until they make a mistake defensively.
Sam Cassell finishing that 3-point play as UConn is now 7 of 11 here in the second half. Cassell missing much of the second half last season with that stress fracture in his lower right leg, looking to bid for playing time this season. Tough shot inside by Armstrong, rejected in there by Nolan. Sam Cassell can't get that one to go, and Armstrong comes out of there with it, and an ill-advised pass picked off by Facey. Omar Calhoun, his first bucket of the game. All 10 Connecticut players who have played have now scored in tonight's game.
Well, they stayed with the play, and their feistiness on defense benefiting them on offense.
Tanner Leisner answering right back with a 3 of his own. He's got 16 points. He's the only New Hampshire player in double figures. Shot clock now under 10. Facey dumping to Nolan. Beautiful, unselfish basketball.
Oh, Kevin Ollie sits at his beach house, his mansion in the summer. That's how he draws up zone offense. Perfect execution.
7 for Phil Nolan. And just careless at a travel.
Well, UConn careless on that possession, but they've come out ready to play in the second half. Spotting from 3, patience, unselfish play by the Huskies.
UConn Huskies looking to go to 2-0 on the young season. They lead it by 18 over New Hampshire with a little bit under 11 minutes to go here in the second half, and Connecticut led by 10 at the break. They've opened it up to 18 thanks in large part to 64% shooting so far, Tim, in this second half.
Well, they're getting good shots. The first half, they made the threes, but the second half they've really paid attention to getting the ball into the middle of the zone, sharing it, spacing the court, setting that high ball screen against the zone, and attacking the baseline.
Well, Sam Cassell Jr. is called for the foul, but he was saying that Leisner was pushing off, but you cannot impede progress. Is that part of the freedom of movement?
Absolutely, and really Connecticut bailed UNH out. They didn't have good spacing on that possession. That's one of the things Sam Cassell has to do a better job of, moving his feet as the offensive player tries to gain an edge.
Jalen Smith reversing to Leisner, and that one is well short. New Hampshire in that zone. They've been in that zone from the very beginning of the game tonight. Shot clock down to 10. Adams working off the bounce. Throws it away.
There's nowhere to go. He has to understand the shot clock, but where he is on the floor as well.
Good attack of the rim by Jalen Smith. He's hit going to shoot 2.
Jalen Adams has a world of talent, but the hardest thing to understand when you come in as a freshman point guard is when to go, when to slow, and especially when you have the speed and quickness that Adams has. He's trying to gather himself every day and be a sponge with everything that Kevin Ollie's throwing at him. First and foremost is how to run this club. But when he doesn't run it properly, he can go right back to the veteran and Sterling Gibbs.
Gibbs is back in along with Daniel Hamilton and Rodney Purvis. The foul was on Kenton Facey. He remains in the game. That was his first and the 4th on the team here in this second half.
When you look up the score, Gary, and it's 17 points, and it doesn't really feel like a 17-point game, but I think the reason that Connecticut is able to do this is because some teams have depth and some teams use their depth properly. And Kevin Ollie really is doing a nice job of using the depth, pressuring UNH and just kind of wearing them out. It's almost like a slow death. I mean, they keep coming at them in waves, keep attacking them on offense and pressuring them on defense.
Daniel Hamilton putting it up there for Phil Nolan, who sends it down. And boy, you could see the eye contact between the two.
Right, now they're just pushing UNH through the door. UNH does not have any pushback in the paint because they're worn out and they don't have the physicality to put up a fight in the paint against the depth and size of UConn.
Daniel Hamilton had 9 assists in the season opener. He's got 5 more tonight. Shot clock at 5. Jordan from way downtown. Off the back iron. Rodney Purvis lines it up. Rodney Purvis, another 3. He's 4 of 7 from beyond the arc in this game. He's now got 13 points, and this 21-point lead is UConn's largest of the game.
Oh, Purvis and Gibbs' threes tonight have not just been threes, Gary. They have been deep threes. Very difficult to defend that in the zone to extend out that far.
8.5 minutes now to go here in this second half. Armstrong nowhere to go, kicking to McNamara, and the true freshman, Pat McNamara from Arlington Heights, Texas. From the wing, his first points of the game.
Good extra pass by UNH, drawing the defense in, kicking it back out.
Jordan Had it lane to the bucket, couldn't finish. Camara getting it back to McNamara. Back-to-back threes now by Pat McNamara, cutting the lead back to 15.
Well, UNH will not be denied. They're not going to go home easily. They won 19 games a year ago, and UConn, though, has come to play in the second half, attacking the zone. Look at him point to the rim. Perfect delivery over the top. This is Daniel Hamilton at his best. Unselfish, point blank for the slam.
Answer now to our trivia question presented by Mercedes-Benz. The last player to score 1,000 plus in his UConn career. And we see all the students in the library trying to find the answer, Tim. This is a very studious crew here at UConn. It is Ryan Boatwright, who leaves Connecticut after last season as the 8th leading scorer in school history.
Well, what great excitement the last couple of years with Boatwright and Napier, but now a new era with Gibbs and Purvis lighting it up from downtown and playing very well together, Gary, just looking for each other. And last year at the beginning of the year, Rodney Purvis just kind of struggled to find his own identity, find a flow, find a chemistry with Ryan Boatwright. Eventually they got it worked out, but these two are playing hand in hand early in the season.
By the way, we mentioned earlier on, Sterling Gibbs went over the 1,000 point mark tonight, but of course, the question was who did it all in a UConn uniform. Gibbs playing for 3 as Daniel Hamilton gets to the bucket right there, and the hoop counts, and he's going to have a chance at a 3-point play.
Well, again, Connecticut just attacking the interior of that zone. And what they've done different here in the second half, Gary, is they've inverted Miller and Hamilton. Miller is playing more on the outside, and they're using Hamilton as a guy that's floating from the baseline to the middle of the floor, and they're looking to go into him either to score or make that next pass at the rim to one of the bigs.
Hamilton in double figures now. He's got 10, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. That's a guy who can fill up the stat sheet. All 10 of Hamilton's points here have come in the second half. And just to finish my thought from a moment ago is Leisner has got that patented one-hand half hook shot down.
Well, he'll be a tough out in the America East. There's no doubt about it. Even though Bill Harrion said everyone will know, it doesn't matter. People will have a world of trouble defending him on the low box and in the mid-post area.
He's got 18 points and a travel on Daniel Hamilton. But Gibbs, as I mentioned a moment ago, his points came at 3 schools. Don't forget, he started at Texas under Rick Barnes, and then at Seton Hall under Kevin Willard, and now his 3rd school here at Connecticut under Kevin Ollie. Pat McNamara has almost single-handedly now, along with Leisner, kept New Hampshire in this game in this second half, his 3rd consecutive triple.
Another good-looking freshman from Texas. Where else? If New Hampshire you're going to recruit, you might as well go to Texas. Connecticut better understand that McNamara can flat-out shoot it.
Boy, Rodney Purvis exploding all the way to the bucket. He's got 15 points now, and Purvis just reaching the 700-point plateau in his college career.
Explosion off that first step, Gary, but also just great body control just to be very soft at the rim and not charge into one of UNH defenders.
Leisner cannot get that one to fall. The lead is at 15 with under 6 minutes to go. Sean Miller bumped by Armstrong. He's going to the free throw line. He's going to shoot 2 as we check in with Kareth Burke.
Well, Gary, I've heard you guys talking about how the New Hampshire roster shows 7 players from Texas, and the Wildcats noticed other America East teams finding success with players from the Lone Star State, so they decided we're going to make a pipeline of their own. You know, these are players who are happy to earn a scholarship at a mid-major school if it means they're going to get a chance to play. You got to also remember, there's a lot of talent down there that sometimes gets overlooked. Sterling Gibbs, in fact, started his career at Texas. And the Wildcats told me the Texas players have a great time gelling because they first commiserate about the cold. Seems to be their first conversation together, Gary.
It is a beautiful campus, though, at New Hampshire with the leaves falling in the fall. And then, Timmy, as Garrett said, the snow comes down and you start to think, well, why did I leave Texas?
Well, Bill Harrion is a very honest guy. I've known him for a long time, too long. And I will have to tell you, I'm sure he does a little bit of fibbing when he goes up, brings those Texans up to beautiful Durham, New Hampshire.
Coming up on 5 minutes to go here in the second half. The shot clock is at 10. Rodney Purvis from the left wing. Rodney Purvis rattles it in there. He's now got 18 points. He's made 5 threes in the game. He tied a career high now with those 5 3-pointers made.
It started, though, with the ball fake at the top on the reversal by Hamilton. He drew the defense in with the ball fake, allowed Purvis to 3 up.
What a game here for Pat McNamara. And, well, I'll tell you what, Kevin Ollie came up off that Connecticut bench, and he is right in Daniel Hamilton's face. Not happy about McNamara finding the sort of space that he's found to hit 4 consecutive threes.
Well, he's telling him, how many does he have to make in your face before you use your 6'8", 6'9" length and get up and contest and make him put it on the floor? I mean, they've seen McNamara. All he's done is spot up shoot, so you've got to make him put it on the deck.
Pat McNamara made 3 3-pointers in New Hampshire's season opener against Linden State. He's made 4 consecutive.
Well, the reason Kevin is upset is he's going underneath that ball screen, and then he just kind of bites on that one dribble, turns his head, and leaves McNamara wide open. Leisner just puts the ball on the floor. He's not going anywhere with the dribble, but he just turns his head, and just an F in defensive principles for Daniel Hamilton, and he's hearing it right now. And unfortunate for him, the 30-second timeout turned into a full, so instead of getting it for 30 seconds, he's getting a full verbal barrage on how to play defense the right way.
Well, is that not basketball and coaching 101? Never turn your head on that sort of a play?
Well, you know, the problem is sometimes when you have such a player so good as Leisner, the game plan is always to be aware of where he is. And Connecticut does a lot of switching out there on the floor. And you know, sometimes when you're Daniel Hamilton, he's 6'8". He's used to guarding forwards. Now he's guarding a 3-point shooter. So he's got to learn how to guard people at different positions on the floor. So it's a learning experience for him as well. And sometimes these things are good to see in early November, where you can teach them and really hammer them and work on them and break them down in practice as you move forward and your schedule gets a little bit more difficult.
Daniel Hamilton named All-American Conference preseason first team, but on that occasion, that went by the wayside as far as Kevin Ollie was concerned. Connecticut leads it by 16 as we're under 4.5 minutes to go. As Miller, a little up fake. Can't get the soft baby hook to fall in the lane. Shot clock at 10. Not a lot of depth on the New Hampshire side with 2 key players suspended, and so you've got to figure they're getting a little bit worn out as Leisner is bumped and fouled by Sean Miller, and Leisner is going to shoot 2. UConn Huskies looking to go to 2-0 on the season. They lead it by 16.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Yu. Make sure to keep it right here after the final whistle for the People's United Bank postgame show. I'll be joined by these guys, Vin Parisi, Tariq Turner. Plenty of reaction, including Kevin Ollie's postgame interview. We'll see you then.
All right, Michelle, we look forward to that as Connecticut leads it by 16. They're shooting 55% in the game, and even better here in the second half, close to 67%. They've gotten better shots in the second half.
Well, they have. They've really exploited the defense. They've gone inside, used their size advantage in the middle of the lane, which they did not do at times in the first half. They've hit that sweet spot in the zone in between the foul line and the baseline. That's drawn the defense in, which has opened up the perimeter.
Jordan trying to work on Facey. And that short, as I mentioned, Tim, a moment ago, Connecticut has 11 they can go to, and it's a New Hampshire team that is shorthanded. And when you go against the sort of pressure that Connecticut brings, I would imagine when you get to this point in the game, it does wear you down.
It is the pressure. I think their guards have held up well, but I think in the backside, their front line has really been kind of pushed through the door in the last few minutes. They're not getting good looks around the basket. McNamara has kind of kept him around, hanging around, but other than that, New Hampshire has fared well tonight. I think they're going to be happy about the performance when they look back at it, but it's very difficult to defend the three-point line in a zone when they stretch it like that. And Brima just banged around a lot tonight by Kamara.
Well, Amita Brima, we know Kevin Ollie wants to see him more active on the glass. He grabbed that rebound and was fouled by Ronell Jordan, who just fouled out of the game. As Jacoby Armstrong replaces him, and under the new rules, not as much time to get a new player into the game. Cut down to 15 seconds,
Right,
correct?
Exactly. Keep the flow of the game. Keep it moving. There's no reason to have a seminar. Someone fouls out. Put the player in and let's go. Away we go.
Amita Brima now with 6 points for Connecticut. All of them coming here in the second half, and that's a pretty good stroke for a big man.
Playing with a lot more confidence. He's been banged around tonight, but he's hung in there. He's stayed with him in himself, and UNH has taken the ball to him, but he's done a good job of staying out of foul trouble.
Last time these two teams met was back in November of 2012, and New Hampshire played strong. They lost that game by 8. They would not go away, and even though they're down 18, they have played really hard here tonight.
Well, again, the America East, when you look at it, Albany is going to be very good as Stony Brook and Vermont, but UNH will be right in that mix in March.
New Hampshire picked to finish 4th in the preseason America East poll. Daniel Hamilton picking up his 4th personal foul. Kamara. Good up fake, gets it to go over Amita Brima.
Oh, I'm impressed with him as well. Kamara just, with that left hand, he is pretty powerful going to the rim. He's made a couple buckets with his left right over the top of Brima.
He's got 8 points as Gibbs, a little too hard off the back iron. Armstrong knocked away by Gibbs, going to stay with New Hampshire.
Well, the big guy, he's just very, very good in transition, and just you see the effort, the second effort, first Facey and then on the baseline.
Hamilton looking for Facey, a little bit too fancy.
Too fancy and too quick. Have to understand time and score. You want to keep attacking, but you don't want to give New Hampshire quick opportunities.
Kamara hammered by Amita Brima, and he's going to go to the free throw line and shoot 2.
Well, first off the turnover, Daniel Hamilton, and then coming back on the other end again. Kamara, fearless, going after Brima.
Shooting 2.
Eva Kamara, the America East Player of the Week, missing the first of 2. He averaged about 3 a game a season ago, and he's got 8 tonight as he misses the second as well. So with just about 2 minutes to go now in the second half, UConn comfortably in front by 16, well on their way to their second early season victory.
Well, this was not an easy win for UConn. They did a nice job of attacking and different parts of the zone. Played solid defense. They made their mistakes, but again, they're a very strong club that has a lot of answers, a lot of depth, and they can score in different ways on the floor, and their defense has been smothering.
Sterling Gibbs called on the foul. Leisner going to shoot 2. I've been impressed by Leisner and the variety of different ways and the angles at which he can get to the bucket.
He is a very good looking young player. I mean, just the big strong body, the lateral quickness off the bounce, the huge hands, just holds the ball like a tennis ball. And he's got the little runner in the lane. It's physical.
And Tanner Leisner is going to sit down with 20 points. He played his heart out tonight.
But again, Gary, even in these type of games last year, which we saw the November, December non-conference games that you're supposed to win easily, UConn had a lot of struggles, and mainly it was because of their offense. And on the season, only averaged 64 points a game. And tonight, just kind of a free-flowing game, just easily got to 80 again. Much improved offensively.
Daniel Hamilton from the right wing. He's got 13. He's reached 400 points now in his young career with the Huskies. McNamara off the dribble. And he's human.
Well, that was a better job defensively. They got him contested him. I think if he would have made that one, Kevin would have called another timeout. He just didn't want to give up any more threes to McNamara.
40 seconds to go now as Connecticut salts away what was a hard-fought victory here over New Hampshire. Sterling Gibbs. He can't finish, but Rodney Purvis does as he goes way up over the rim.
Well, both guards physical defensively, sharing the basketball, knocking down threes, and able to get inside and play at the rim as well.
Rodney Purvis had a terrific end of the season last year, was in doubles 8 of his last 9 games, and picking right up this season where he left off. Camara out of control, and it's heading back over to Connecticut. When I take it back, they're going to keep it with New Hampshire. Andrew Dotson, number 2, another of the freshmen, is in for New Hampshire, along with David Watkins, number 22. Camara kicking to Dotson. He beats the shot clock, but the game clock expires, and that's it. Connecticut gets themselves a victory here at Gampo Pavilion to the delight of Kevin Ollie. UConn wins it 85-66. Tim Welsh, some thoughts on what you saw from the Huskies.
They just wore out UNH tonight, first from the three-point line and then in the lane and at the paint and in the rim in the second half. But a very impressive performance from beyond the arc by Connecticut tonight. And if they can shoot the ball with that type of confidence to go with their transition game, their defense, and their physicality in the lane, they are going to be a tough out all season long.
Tonight's players of the game presented by People's United Bank. Sterling Gibbs and Daniel Hamilton. Gibbs had 21, made 5 from beyond the arc, and Hamilton filled up that stat sheet again, 13, along with 11 rebounds, and also had 6 assists.
Very, very versatile player. Again, outstanding performance by the perimeter players of Connecticut.
Let's go over to Carrot Burke. She's with the head coach, Kevin Ollie.
He's talking to his team for just a moment, praising Sterling Gibbs and Hamilton. Coach, can I ask you, lots of contact, lots of fouls in this one. What did your team show on the toughness scale?
No, they just showed toughness. They showed they stayed with it. They was aggressive. You know, we made some adjustments at halftime to get Daniel Hamilton in the 4-hole. We called it underneath that free throw line. He started making plays. Sterling was absolutely great shooting the ball in the first half, but we just got to play smarter. But this was good for us, our team, because we're going to see zones down the road, and they played zone the whole night, and we still put up 85 points, so I'm very, very happy with that.
Sterling really got the offense going in that first half too. 21 points, but what else was he doing on the court tonight that made him essential to this win?
I mean, just playing solid, and he playing great defense. I mean, that's the part of his game that's underrated. He's a great defender, and we push him to be a great defender and play both ends of the floor, and that's what he's doing. He's taking a challenge. We all taking a challenge. Second half, we laxed a little bit. The only thing that was going to keep him in the game was 3-pointers, and we gave up a lot of 3-pointers in the second half, so, you know, we got to clean that up. But overall, I was was happy because you don't see zones this early, and we was prepared for it. We had our shooters shoot the ball, and it was very, very good to see that.
You have a deep bench as well. What did you get from your reserves tonight?
I got a lot from our reserve. One standout reserve was Kenton Facey. Came in, showed toughness, played in that 4-hole like we said. We put a lot of pressure on that 4-hole because he needs to go in there, and he's probably pretty the point guard in there, getting the balls and making plays. So he did a great job, played a great job on the defensive end, rebounded the ball very, very well. So I was very pleased with his bench production.
Kevin, thank you very much, and congratulations. Gary, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Kareth and Coach Alla, UConn has now won their last 9 over New Hampshire and 19 of their last 21. They get the win tonight, 85-66. We're back to wrap it up from Gamble in a moment. Connecticut gets the win over New Hampshire, 85-66. Our next UConn men's game on SNY going to be an afternoon matinee this Saturday, right back here at Gamble against Furman. Our coverage on SNY begins at 11:30 a.m. Coming up next, the People's United Bank postgame show. Michelle Yu, Tariq Turner, and Vin Parisi. So for Tim Welsh, Kareth Burke, our producer, Gerard Guilfoyle, and director Dan Barr, and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Apple. We send it to the crew now in New York.